All right, folks, today we're taking a look at Wayfinder. This could be simply thought of as your go-to tool to answer number one, how is your partnership program health? And number two, how do we do the requisite marketing to close the gap between where we are today and where we want to be? So whether you are an academic organization or whether you are a startup or you are a growing department within an industrial organization, you might be asking, how do we get contracts signed? Whether they're student team projects, whether they're for a new platform or technology, and just wondering how to create an efficient tracking mechanism by which we can assess our program health, whether that comes to financing, fit, retention, and succession, but also how do we do the marketing to get there? We have potentially several databases that have past projects or target clientele. We might have financing targets. Have no fear. At OpenSeas, we think of all of these targets and data banks as relevant ways to plug into our partnership tool Wayfinder and to really form the tool to be most efficient and beneficial for your organization. The dashboard is just to give you an idea. You are able to ask a simple question, potentially from an executive, to run the reasoning model, which would be tied back to your databanks. We're able to answer those questions very, very efficiently. What often happens without such a tool is that you are depending on maybe one or two people that have the keys to the partnerships. The danger in that, obviously, is that over time, people can forget or they can leave. Um, Essentially, a mature organization can depend on processes instead of on people. And that makes sense, especially over decades and decades when some partnerships expire. There's merger and acquisition information. Companies start to envelop one another, or technologies begin to decay over time. This information materially changes. So you really do need to see the need for such a mechanism uh, in a mature and enduring organization. Now, there's a variety of factors that are on the dashboard. Won't get into these too much right now, especially because number one, these are going to be programmed and targeted depending on your organization. And number two, just because these can easily be switched out. And if I go into that information, we might be here all night. But we can think of it simply as dollars, stage of prospecting, who you're targeting. And essentially, we can even add a few more modules, which would talk to you about your project or partnership mix. When it comes to outreach, we are able to quickly access your data banks, whatever information you may have about past projects or about student curriculum or what platform it is if you're an industrial organization. And essentially, we're able to create custom targeted marketing materials effortlessly. I mean, quite literally within 30 seconds. Take a look up here. This is our kind of uh, easy interface and module. I want you to look at all of this information here. Why don't we just quickly choose a company here together? Why don't we go for Novartis? All of this information is plugged in with data banks in the back. We would then be able to ask an intelligent question about maybe notes you get through discovery and engaging said liaison. And essentially, we'd be able to pull up all the projects that would be of relevance to this person, also because of their position and their seniority. And that could easily be transmitted here. We can mention past projects that are relevant and save as a PDF. Yes, this is advanced functionality within Excel. It's VBA and macro based, if that means anything to you. But we really have no issue in sharing, how each of our tabs of Excel work. That's not the magic. We do believe in open source, but the magic is really behind the scenes. So again, no issue in sharing that information. So you have a series of lists here. Number one is you could look at past services. You also have an invoice tab. These are nice little kind of flip-in functionality that would be tangential to the main marketing piece, but we find that clients are looking for that full service white glove experience. So those tend to help. Okay, we might look at personas. We might know that because someone is, for instance, a startup CEO, and they fall under a certain category, maybe that said person would be on your short list of contacts that you'd want to come back to each financing cycle, each quarter. And these essentially would be the individuals you start with when it comes to your prospecting life cycle, because they would tend to sign more often. They're aware of your program, they're aware of your entity, and you're essentially not starting from zero. So we do have that persona list built in. Project master list. This could be your past partnerships. This is, of course, a very relevant database, and we can make this as complex or simple as you like. Essentially, we would assess your data and pull in those factors that are most relevant to getting that custom targeted pitch. Of course, all of this would be compliantly secured and backed up outside of Excel. Client master list, you have one line per company. We'd be able to classify actually very easily, depending on how important is that fit to your organization. If we're looking at an academic organization, for instance, Keck graduate of the Claremont Colleges, the funding and the mission of the Riggs School are meant to pay for large biotech partnerships. So while we would take other partnerships, these ones are going to rank just a little bit higher. And that has the uh, effortless visibility. Once you click this button, no matter if you have 500 or 5,000 partnerships, they would be graded according to your key here. Also, recurrence. We're also in the process of adding a tab of M&A. Biotech is close to 40, almost 50 years old of an industry. So some companies have gone out of business or sort of Pac-Man and enveloped one another. So we want to know if they're still active and if it's a recurring partnership. So that's kind of a taste of the client master list here. Won't go into this too much because this is potentially sensitive information, but we can take your CRM, pull data raw into an Excel or XLS file. We could then find said individual, their position, where they are currently, and their verified email. And we would be able to use this as a data bank and sort of a contact sheet to be able to pull in and create that custom outreach.